Hello and welcome. This video is about George Harrison's song Let It Down and is intended to, through looking at this song, provide something of a guide to George Harrison's discography more generally. It is a truism of Harrison's writing that when he is singing songs about God, he is often singing about sex, and when he is singing about sex, he is often singing about God. We're going to look today at why that is, by looking at Harrison's beliefs, and also we're going to look at the way he translated those beliefs into his songwriting. This video is going to be a queer reading of the song. My intention is to be agnostic about who the lover is in verses 1 and 2 and what their gender is. However, I am going to make a specific case for who the lover is in verse 3, because spoiler, I don't think that all the verses are about the same person, and I do think verse 3 is about a specific woman, and it's probably not the woman you think it is, so stick around for that. Also, I will say straight up that though I'm going to be agnostic about whether the song is sexually queer, the song is genderqueer in the way that we understand the term now, and from a Western perspective. So let's go! Let It Down is a song from All Things Must Pass, George Harrison's third solo album, released in 1970 following the breakup of the Beatles. The song seems to describe an affair. The singer desires someone who is likely in the vicinity. Though you sit in another chair, I can feel you here, but they must hide it. Hiding it all behind everything I see, should someone be looking at me. The popular narrative around this song is that it's about Charlotte Martin. According to Pattie Boyd, on the 1st of January 1969, Harrison moved Martin, the ex-girlfriend of his friend Eric Clapton, into their shared residence. Harrison first demonstrates this song to the other Beatles on the 2nd of January, the first day of the Get Back Let It Be sessions. Though the timing seemed to match up, Harrison has never said who the song is about. All that we know is that the first two verses of the song and the chorus that follow them were completed by the 2nd of January. Because we don't know who the song is about, I suggest we take this opportunity to read ambiguously, see what other meanings that sense of ambiguity can open up. The song is inherently ambiguous. That's almost its defining trait. Also, straight up, this video is going to be a lot of theology and also a lot of comparing Harrison's lyrics with medieval Sanskrit love poetry, which I know sounds like a lot, but I promise you it will make this song and a lot of actually Harrison's discography really shine. So how does the meaning of the song change if we are awake to this sense of ambiguity? I think that it changes on a spiritual level. Harrison clearly invokes the sacred at least twice in his lyrics. While you look so sweetly and divine, and wasting away these moments so heavenly. I'm now going to take you through what Harrison believed at the time. Let's begin with a quote from Harrison's then wife, Pattie Boyd. "And there were other women that really hurt. In India, George had become fascinated by the god Krishna, who was always surrounded by young maidens, and he came back wanting to be some kind of Krishna figure, a spiritual being with lots of concubines. He actually said so." Point 1. George thinks he can take on the role of Krishna, be as Krishna for other people. Misogyny aside, why would Harrison believe he was like Krishna? Let's have a look. The text that we know for sure George Harrison read was Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, founder of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Harrison wrote the introduction for this book and funded its publication. From chapter 21 of this book, the gopis attracted by the flute. The gopis, by the way, are cowherd girls and consorts of Krishna. There are a lot of them, over 16,000 in some traditions. The most important of these was Radha, the chief consort of Krishna, not simply another lover, but his soul, his Shakti, his inner self. While the birds, trees and plants were all looking very happy, Krishna, tending the cows and accompanied by Sri Balarama and the cowherd boys, began to vibrate his transcendental flute. After hearing the vibration of the flute of Krishna, the gopis in Vrindavana remembered him and began to talk amongst themselves about how nicely Krishna was playing his flute. Krishna was very expert in playing the flute, and the gopis were captivated by the sound vibration. I'm not saying that this is what Krishna consciousness is, but just for a moment, imagine that you're Beatle George Harrison reading this for the first time. How are you going to interpret this? Point 2. God is a musician surrounded by groupies. And further to this, there is versatility, I believe. In a 1976 interview, Harrison said, "All love is part of universal love. When you love a woman, it's the God in her that you love. Point 3. Other people can be as God for Harrison. And also, to explain the God is a woman concept briefly, Radha Krishna is the combined form of Krishna and Radha, and devotees worship Radha in order to worship Krishna. Point 4. You believe God is a woman. Point 4. God is a woman. And I can hear you now. You know, I clicked on this video because you said there was going to be gender play. Where is the gender play? And listen, I'm getting there, but one thing that we have to do first is understand how Harrison would have imagined his relationship with God. In her article, The Transgendered Devotee, Ambiguity of Gender in Devotional Poetry, Rima Bhattacharya argues that through the Bhakti movement, which is a religious movement in medieval India, the gods were no longer worshipped as superior beings, but were rather seen as friends, lovers, a spouse, or even children. The Bhakti movement opened new possibilities of reframing and discarding orthodox notions of sexual rigidity. By making the deity a lover, new forms of intimacy were discovered beyond the confines of marriage and family. This, in several ways, legitimized same-sex love and desire under the guise of devotion and godly love. Benita and Kidwai note that within this tradition, Vaishnava tradition, of which Krishna worship is a part, all male devotees tend to identify with the female who desires union with the male deity. So that would be, their identification would then be with Radha or the gopis. This form of worship, Madhura Bhava, God as lover, is considered within this tradition to be the most powerful, significant form of relationship that you can have with a divinity. If you're a fan of Harrison's music, then this is likely going to be making sense to you, because this formulation of God as lover is very much there in, for instance, My Sweet Lord, and in Mystical One, and in Hear Me Lord. Like it's ever present in his discography. To yearn for union with God is, for Harrison, to yearn romantically. Christianity has this subtext, it's just a little bit less overt. For instance, Psalm 63:1, this is the one that Contrapunct uses a lot. You, God, are my God. Earnestly I seek you. I thirst for you. My whole being longs for you in a dry and parched land where there is no water. So, and to reiterate, this is what I think George Harrison in specific might have believed at around the time of writing, rather than what Hindus in general believe. Number 1, George can be as Krishna for other people. 2, God is a musician surrounded by groupies. 3, other people can be as God for Harrison. 4, God is a woman, Radha. And 5, the relationship between Bhakta, worshipper, and deity can be seen as, among other things, a relationship between female lover and male god, regardless of whether the Bhakta is male or female. And now to the song. Yes! And the core of my argument. I think the song is a retelling of the myth of Radha and Krishna, in which the singer takes on the role of Radha, at least at the beginning. Author Simon Lang has argued that the line in the first verse, but I do, is Harrison restating his marriage vow, which I agree with. He then goes on to say that the shift to and I do is an early example of the singer viewing his life as a battle with an unseen enemy waiting to pounce. I don't think that that's why the lyrics in there. In most sources describing the relationship between Radha and Krishna, Radha is already married to someone else. For instance, in these poems, she's married to someone else and she has to meet with Krishna in secret. However, in some other traditions, Radha also marries Krishna in secret in the Vrindavana forest, with Brahma acting as an officiant. So we see but I do becomes and I do. The singer is casting themselves in the role of Radha, surrendering, despite earthly concerns about chastity, to a spiritual marriage with their other self. Another reason to potentially read this song in terms of the Radha Krishna story is the level of intertextuality that there is between love poetry about the relationship between Krishna and Radha and the lyrics of this song. So this is the one that I've read. and it's the one that I'm going to be using as a source of comparison. Just as Harrison talks about the dangers of looking, so too do these poems. For instance, from poem 82, Eyes of Danger, to gaze on Krishna was my greatest wish, yet seeing him was filled with danger. Gazing has bewitched me, no will remains, I cannot speak or hear. This theme is in quite a number of the poems. For instance, from poem 81, Care, I dared not gaze at him in such an older throng, with blaming eyes around, waves of love rose high. Compare this to Let It Down, which is obsessed with observing, being observed, and being observed, observing. The words looking, look, see, and eyes appear 9 times across the song. For instance, verse 1, though you sit in another chair, I can feel you here, looking like I don't care, but I do, hiding it all behind anything I see, should someone be looking at me. So we have a sense that the singer might be linking himself to Radha in the way that he, like she, betrays an earthly marriage for a spiritually significant marriage, and also in the way that he, like she, needs to hide his feelings around others and restrain his glances. But in spite of blaming eyes around, Radha does meet with Krishna, and so too does the singer meet with their beloved. Let's look at the way the line, should somebody be looking at me, changes between bridge 1 and 2. So in the first bridge, hiding it all behind everything I see, the tension is increased. So that is the volume is raised, the chord progression creates dissonance, and also there's a piano that sort of creeps higher, and then it all dissolves and we are left in a moment of quiet, and the storytelling here is that Harrison is too worried about the opinions of others to pursue the object of his desire. And likewise, Radha and Krishna don't always meet up, they are sometimes prevented by the gazing of other people. So for instance, from poem 29, Moon and Night, from afar the unkind can gaze at will, how can I bring you there, my love? Your eyes look everywhere, your body is afraid, I dare not bring you. So in the second bridge, we get the same musical dissonance, the same ramp up in volume, the same piano creeping higher. However, here the bridge, which has become wasting away these moments so heavenly, should someone be looking at me, we build to the chorus and let it down, and the storytelling here is the affair is sacred, it must be allowed to go ahead. It's defiant. Similarly, in Love Songs of Vidyapati, Radha goes to meet Krishna in spite of the danger. From poem 88, Bold Love, my eyes look brilliant with no mascara, I shall cover my body in white and walk with leisured steps, when the sky is lit with a smiling moon. From staring eyes I shall not flinch, nor shall I hide, so much did I conceal from fear of others, even the currents of my love. It's beautiful. Instead of getting this description of darkness and concealment, which is usually what's present in the descriptions of Radha going to meet Krishna, here she's literally shining. Her white cloth is reflecting the light of the moon, her eyes are unconcealed with charcoal and they're literally emitting light. So if Harrison is comparing himself to Radha, how is the lover compared with Krishna? Well, for one thing, I personally think it's unclear within the second verse whether Harrison is singing about being apart from his lover or meditating, connecting with the divine. I get this sense from the line, while I occupy my mind, I can feel you here. In the introduction to the book I was talking about earlier, Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Harrison says, if there's a God, I want to see him. It's pointless to believe in something without proof, and Krishna consciousness and meditation are methods where you can actually obtain God perception. You can actually see God and hear him, play with him. It might sound crazy, but he's actually there, actually with you. In addition, the feel in I Can Feel You Here is prolonged and accompanied by a dissonant chord, C suspended 2. We are kept for a moment in tension as the piano ascends upwards. I get a sense of the sublime, in Khrushchev's words, a point of departure, a moment and only a moment where the singer sort of reaches his hand up beyond the material and grazes his fingertips against the divine, but this connection can only be experienced for a moment, for then the line resolves itself back to earth, E major 9, where we started, with a descending piano riff. We also get the same pattern with the I do, I do's, which, as I've argued, is equally appropriate as the union with the divine in this song is conceived of as marital. Love to us is so well timed, followed by mournful, yearning slide guitar, are both also in the second verse. I think this might be a reference not only to the necessity of good timekeeping for having an affair, but also to the shared musical connection between Harrison and the god. So if this is Harrison taking on a female role and casting the lover in the role of male deity, would that not make this a gay love song? Not necessarily. Firstly, I think there are sort of two potential ways to read this. It is either about a mystical union, or it is about a physical earthly union that the singer feels is like enormously spiritually significant. In addition to this, the song does make sense if you imagine it to be a man singing about a woman. When you first heard it, that is probably what you thought. Intertextuality as well. The line, "let your hair hang all around me," does not have to be urging a woman. You know, men can have long hair, but I would say in these poems, in particular, there is a lot of hair falling in the sort of sexual unions of Radha and Krishna, and it is Radha's hair that is falling. I'd like to compare the chorus of this song with poem 42, Ecstasy. So with the chorus we get, let it down, let your hair hang all around me, let it down, let your love flow and astound me. With Ecstasy we get, her hair dishevelled veils the beauty of her face, as evil shadows eat the glowing moon, strings of blossom in her hair wantonly play, as flooded rivers twine about their twins. Exquisite today this sport of love, as Radha rides on Krishna, beads of sweat glisten on her face, like pearls on the moon. It's very close. So with the poem we have this idea of flowing, with flooded rivers, strings of blossom, beads of sweat. We have the idea of hanging hair, with veils the beauty of her face, and we have the idea of riding, which is subtext in the chorus of Harrison's song. If we accept the implications of intertextuality here, by urging his lover, let your hair hang all around me, Harrison is now not putting himself in the role of Radha, but Krishna. And by the way, the poems often shift like this. We have poems told from Krishna's perspective, from Radha's perspective, and from the perspective of go-betweens. So how do we decipher this? Well, two things to say. Firstly, Radha and Krishna form a unity when they come together, and the name of that unity is Krishna. Regardless of whether the singer was identifying with Radha or Krishna before the chorus, by the time we get to the chorus, his identification is with God. We also get this sense in another of Harrison's songs, Long, 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 with the lyric, now I can see you, be you. This is Atma-Nivendana, self-surrender. The devotee flies to the state of the highest Mahabhava and merges himself in God. The wave subsides in the ocean, the spark becomes one with the fire, the ray is absorbed into the sun, the mind merges in the Atman. I will say now that if this is what Harrison was trying to communicate by switching identification in the chorus, then it's really brilliant. It is a really great interpretation of like these poems and and their tropes, like the trope of switching identification, and also like the philosophy. But dangerous, right? You sort of surely, like, what you watching this probably are thinking that if you're idealizing a lover to the level of God, that puts you in some danger. So the second point that I'd like to make is that you can read the chorus bisexually, which sort of, I'm saying that I don't know who the first two verses are about, and I'm about to make the case that the third verse is about a specific woman. So it's possible that the choruses that follow these verses do not have the same referent in terms of what's happening. And this is something that's quite typical of Harrison's songwriting. So now we get to the third verse, and I finally reveal who I think this verse is about. It's Pattie Boyd. Before we start, I would like to say that I think that the third verse is a later addition to the song, When Harrison first plays the song to the Beatles on the 2nd of January, it's just the first two verses and the chorus that he plays. At the end of the month, 26th of January, he plays all three verses and the two choruses. I think the third verse is about Pattie Boyd, and I think it's Pattie Boyd now taking on the role of Radha, with Harrison then cast in the role of Krishna. Let's have a look at the lyrics to see what I mean. So the third verse goes, "While you look so sweetly and divine, I can feel you here. I see your eyes are busy kissing mine, and I do, wondering what it is they're expecting to see, should someone be looking at me." In many of the songs to Pattie Boyd, we get this focus on eyes and met gaze. From "For You Blue, you looked at me, that's all you had to do." From "It's all too much, when I look into your eyes, your love is there for me, and the more I go inside, the more there is to see." From "Beautiful Girl," this part was written for Pattie Boyd. "Never seen such a beautiful girl, got me shaking inside, calling on me from deep within her eyes." Time for me to look at you, and you to look at me. There are a lot of descriptions of Radha's eyes and their beauty, and their looking at Krishna in these poems. As well as this, the line "and I do," repeated here, is another reaffirmation of Harrison's marriage to Pattie that is still significant. "I see your eyes are busy kissing mine, and I do, wondering what it is they're expecting to see, should someone be looking at me." "They" has now changed meaning, and it's now Pattie's eyes. What are Pattie's eyes expecting to see if someone is looking at Harrison and desiring him? The someone here, I think, is Charlotte Martin, and this is how Pattie is being depicted as Radha, because she is experiencing mana, pride or jealousy. This is a really big thing in the poems. Krishna had lots of lovers, Radha gets very jealous. "Your glances tempt their love, O Krishna, Krishna. As I guard my honour, my love in a foreign land ravishes beauties who belong to others." Apropos of nothing, this would imply that Harrison feels a possessive jealousy over whoever the not Pattie Boyd is of verses 1 and 2. So whatever Harrison's experiences were in verses 1 and 2, they have in some way Krishna-ified him here, allowed him to be as Krishna for others. There are things that Harrison does really well. I think the idea of referring to both the people in the first two verses that are stopping him from engaging with his beloved as someone, and then in verse 3 referring to Charlotte Martin, I think, as someone, shows a really good understanding of the texts. Like, within the love songs of Vidyapati, the other lovers of Krishna and the in-laws that prevent Radha from meeting with Krishna are narratologically identical. They are both the barrier that prevents the couple joining together, and by referring to both barriers as someone, like, Harrison shows like a strong understanding of, you know, these medieval love poems. So I've argued for a specific interpretation of the lyrics, but they are in fact ambiguous, which is why you haven't heard this argument before. The lovers alternate between male and female, between god and mortal. On a mythological level, the singer alternates between Radha and Krishna, and the lover or lovers they are singing about, Krishna and Radha. You can even say that the soft verses are Radha and the loud choruses are Krishna, and by identification with both, the singer brings together the masculine and feminine elements within himself. Though far from feminist, the song can be interpreted as a heroine's journey, beginning as female, then identifying with the male, and then in the final chorus, let it down, ah, 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 or however it should be sung. There's a union. The genders of the singer and sung about lose their locus in this erotic coming together. The divine meets the material, let it down from heaven. Ah, ah, it's also an orgasm, obviously. As Rima Bhattacharya says on Gender in Hindu Religion, sex and gender boundaries can be transcended or crossed in order to seek a divine reality, not only thereby proving dedication to a deity, but also drawing attention to the arbitrary and fluid nature of gender. So for instance, here is the image that I included in the title card. It is an Ardhanarishwara, which is an image depicting the combined form of Shiva and Parvati. Anyone of any gender could sing this song to anyone of any gender as long as they were having an affair. Because the theme of this series is queer time, can we also quickly talk about another ambiguity that the song has as well? I'm not the first to point out that the song is chronologically ambiguous, that you could equally hear it as a repeated pattern of desire and fulfillment, or the singer or narrator repeatedly returning to the affair in memory. Is it two soon-to-be lovers in a room with other people that they have to hide their feelings from, about to consummate an affair for the first time? Is it two lovers that have just got together and then come back? This is a little bit suggested by the music, because we open on sort of Phil Spector's enormous wall of sound that sort of anticipates the "let it down" of the chorus, and then the first verse begins on a note of comparative quiet. Or is the singer thinking back to the affair in public, perhaps apart from his lover, perhaps not? This is a meaning that takes on particular significance in context. Every performance of the song is the singer revisiting the affair in public and potentially hiding behind the ambiguities of the song. In Sanskrit terms, is this purva raga, love prior to meeting? Is it primavati sita? I don't know if that's the right pronunciation. Fearing separation even in the lover's presence? Or is it pravasa, actual separation, being apart from the beloved? But don't get it twisted, there is linearity here. But I do becomes and I do. Harrison unifies with Krishna and then is able to be Krishna for other people. But Vaseline has been smeared over our looking glass, and it is the chronology is ambiguous. When and where the two lovers are at any one time is difficult to decipher. In addition to this, the song is a retelling of a modern affair in the late 1960s in England, and it's also a retelling of a mythological affair between two gods in ancient India. Time and space, just as the genders of the lovers are fuzzy around the edges, undefined, viewed in low resolution. Blurry. A song about hiding, it makes sense that these specifics stay hidden, but there is a sense of also being beyond time. This song is written intentionally atemporally, and the function of that is at every time, in every place, this song makes sense. In any place, at every time, the lovers are connected. I can feel you here. I can, even if I'm not touching you, we are still connected. There is this invisible string. It's very romantic. It's a little bit similar to McCartney's I Will that we looked at last time. Both songs are trying to find a way through to linearity, but while McCartney is playing with tense and chronology, trying to make sense of the past and sort of make it and trying to plan out the future a little bit, Harrison doesn't just have the sense that his love will last for the rest of his life. For him, as implied with this song, what is true now, what he feels now, has always been felt. Since the beginning of time, since Om, and it always will be, right now, until the end of time, forever and ever, amen, across the universe. It's glimpsing the infinite. As with My Sweet Lord, Let It Down is a song that reaches for universality by blurring gender and cultural boundaries and by sounding enormous. So that is the end. My next video is going to be about your blues, and it will be sad. So if you are at all struggling, I recommend you don't watch that video. But if you are interested, that is the next video. Okay, thank you very much. Bye.